Welcome back to the C Morning Show. I had this particular segment that I've been talking earlier. We're going to talk more about books. So bookworm, come closer. But before that, podcasts have been enjoyed by many Indonesians since its inception. According to data, Indonesia had the biggest percentage of podcast listeners in the world in 2021.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it? Probably because our population is so big.
Yeah.
And also we have this culture of listening to the radio, right? So I guess this time it's a little bit transitioning or a lot transitioning to podcasts. And not only that, many in the streaming platform also praise Indonesian creators for being able to quickly build a good community and chemistry, not only with fellow podcasters, but also with their listeners.
Yeah, speaking of chemistry between creators and listeners, many podcast creators in Indonesia focus on telling the stories that can immerse their listeners or even making them feel as if they are friends with the narrators. Interestingly, there's one Indonesian podcast network that invites their listeners to review and discuss unique stories from books and authors through podcasts.
That is correct. And this podcast is part of the Podluck Podcast Collective. And today we will find out how it first began and what do they choose to focus on, what sort of topics other than books. So that's why today we have at the studio with us Paticia Wulandari, the Podluck Podcast Collective co-founder. Podluck Podcast, it's a lot of mouthful. Hello, Patty. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi,
Shelby
good
and Marita.
Thanks for coming to our studio. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So please do tell us about this Podluck Podcast Collective.
Okay, maybe the backstory first.
Yes.
So it began at the end of 2017. I and my husband Raymond, so we decided to create a podcast because we want to archive what's happening behind Indonesian illustration scene.
Because your background is
because my background, we used to have like a art-based institution. So we call it, one is Kopi Keliling. It's actually like an art exhibition held in coffee shops, local coffee shops. And we also had Catalyst Art. It's actually like an art market held in public spaces, including malls. So at the time, we want to archive what's happening behind the Indonesian illustration scene, and we collaborated with one of our friends, an illustrator, Rukminal Hakim, to become the host. So that's the initial story. But as time went by, we think that we had a lot of friends with different backgrounds. They work in different creative industries, and they also have like different interests with us. So we asked them to join us if they want to make a podcast as well, because I and my husband, we were and still are podcast listeners. So at that time, in 2017, there's not so many podcasts in Indonesian. So we want to create one.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so we invited some of our friends and they agreed. So from illustration, we grow into many different segments, including books hosted by myself.
Hosted by yourself. So your segment is Main Mata.
Yes,
It's called Main
correct.
Mata, or basically we call it in English wink.
Wink.
Main Mata. So what is this Main Mata podcast about? What do you discuss? Do you interview people and so on?
Yeah, it's a bookish podcast.
Bookish podcast. Don't you just love it?
Bookish.
podcast.
Bookish podcast started with an interview with various writers, because when I was in the illustration scene, I also I had collaborated with some of the writers, so I knew some of them and started with interviewing them about the writings, about the books, and then it develops into like I also review the books that I read from Spotify to video version on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah, something like that.
Patricia, you mentioned that you are started very early 2017, where people probably didn't know what podcast is.
I still remember because in 2017, there is a podcast streamer called And Spiegel.
Oh,
yeah.
Spiegel at that
Spiegel.
time was just about to emerge. Yes, Safira, sorry.
But it's
continue.
not popular
No,
yet,
it was not.
right?
It
It's
was not.
only limited and very, very limited teams and everything. So people are not really interested in what is podcast. And then 2018, 19, and then Oprah Winfrey has podcast as well.
Yeah.
That's where I start to listen to podcasts from Oprah Winfrey. So, but you are when you are growing, and now you in 2023 you have so many collaborators as well. How you survive with the podcast and with the network itself?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's important to survive because we cannot burn our own money, right?
Of course.
Forever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I and my husband think that it's important for us to have a business model for the podcast. So if you notice, Podluck Podcast began as an audio version only in SoundCloud before there was Spotify. And then we switched to Spotify when it came to available for the Indonesian podcasters. But when we were in Spotify, we also realized that we cannot monetize our episodes on the platform, not like YouTube. So we cannot monetize based on the listenership. So we have to have a sponsor to advertise on our episode. But we also aware that our topics are very niche compared to those podcasts.
podcasters,
Especially on the top 200 chart on Spotify podcasts. So we cannot promise our maybe brands that want to advertise that we will gain or attract millions of audience, for example. So yeah, that's why at the time we thought it's better for us to switch to YouTube. So we make a video version of the podcast. Because YouTube offer like a monetization scheme, so it's like more fair to us. And aside from that, we also have a business model of production house and consultant. So we produce podcasts, audio video podcasts for companies or brands that want to have their own show.
Okay.
so
So
that's
you
how you-
scratch the business
Yes.
models, and
Yeah.
now it became sustainable.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I
Yeah, I
know.
think it's very lucky for us to move to YouTube, so we know how to make a video podcast.
Exactly. Very entrepreneurial indeed. Now, with Main Mata, for example, you have interviewed a lot of writers since 2017, right?
Yeah.
So, who were the most unforgettable or top three most unforgettable writers?
Three?
And also three books that you would recommend to us as well.
Okay, the top three would be Henry Manampiring.
Of
one
course.
them, yeah.
Yes.
I interviewed him when Philosophy Terrace was first published in early 2019. And then Pak almarhum Sapardi
Djoko Damono. Wow, you
Yeah.
interviewed him. That's
I went to his
amazing.
house. Yeah, so we had a chat at his
Yes.
house, and it was so memorable because
Wow.
it was like 1 month prior to the pandemic.
What did you talk about? Do you remember?
He's very humble, and he talks about his writings, like how he still writes every day
Amazing.
for the rest of his life, and that's what kept him insane. Yeah.
You kept him sane,
Yeah.
right?
Amazing,
That's it,
right?
kept him sane. Sorry,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. No, but it's okay. With some writers, we need to be a little bit insane, right? Otherwise, the creative juice is not coming out. you know?
Yeah.
And then the third would be who?
And the third one would be, I have to think.
Because I know that recently she interviewed Di Lestari for Rapi Jali, no?
Oh no, it's not an interview. It's just a book review.
It's just a book review.
Yeah,
You
I-
have not
I
interviewed
haven't
Dee.
interviewed Dee.
Okay.
It's on my wish list.
There you go, Dee. If you're watching.
Patricia. This is Patricia.
Exactly.
I'm trying to introduce her on television. All right.
Yeah.
So Patricia, let's go back to your Podluck podcast. podcast
Okay.
network. You mentioned earlier that you chose it's quite niche theme compared to other podcasters nowadays that probably talking about so many things, biography, talking about themselves even. But you are consistent in books, TV, movie, and TV series. You give you give recommendations, you're reviewing and everything. You probably face so many challenges. What the most challenging thing that you've been facing and how you cope with that?
The most challenging things, okay. Yeah, the most challenging things would be how to maintaining your audience and how to consistently publishing episodes.
Yes.
Because we publish episodes every week right now on YouTube.
Every week.
Every
Certain day? Do you have a certain day or no?
No,
Okay.
maybe
Only once a week.
only
Once
once,
a week.
just once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what we try to maintain,
Okay.
so we can maintain our audience too, and we want to present the show better and better. So we keep learning every day on how to create a good recommendation, how to make a good a good topic that our audience like, but at the same time, I also love the topics.
Yeah, speaking about that, if Patricia loved book and Patricia, you gave the recommendation, as we know that most Indonesian has the lower interest, with a very low interest in reading a books about the literacy.
So the data is still...
Exactly.
Oh, that's
so
very sad.
how do you get the audience and they keep viewing your and subscribe to your channel and how you maintaining them
Okay.
to convince that hey read a book at least
People
one book
read books.
a year. How?
Yeah,
because based on the data we have a very low book readers.
I think we have to create the hook for the book
Such as, for example?
that really touch the audience. For example, maybe it's easier if you talk about a non-fiction book.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it will more relatable to our audience, to our daily life. For example, such as, okay, one of the books that I would recommend today, actually, the Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, for example. I would tell the audience that this is the book that will guide you to help you to find a simpler life.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the
to
cover
have
over
a good
there.
life. Yeah.
The iPad, right?
Yeah. This is the book. Yeah.
He's a philosopher.
Stoicism.
Stoicism, right?
Yeah. This will guide you to help you throughout the day, to help you making your life more meaningful, to making your life more happier, something like that. So if people want to be happy, so maybe they will interested in reading the book.
Right. So right now, I guess people, or both the listeners and also book readers, they're more interested in nonfiction. Nonfiction books at the moment. I see. That's very interesting. So other than Marcus Aurelius, what 2 other books that you would recommend to us and to our audience here?
Okay, the second book.
Marcus Aurelius is amazing, by the way. So he's a Stoic.
Yeah.
He was a Roman emperor, but a very wise one. And he was a Stoic, and other Stoic that you might be interested in reading as well is also Seneca.
Yeah.
I think Letters from a Stoic, right? And he's also a Stoic. And Stoicism is actually a very nice, how would you say it? It's like it's a way of thinking, isn't it? It's a way of living.
Thinking. Yeah.
That was very helpful, especially during the pandemic, because the principle of Stoicism is actually you can only control what you feel about something. That something can be external things, but you can't control external things. And during the pandemic, I applied this so much because during the pandemic, we couldn't control the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody had to stay home.
Yes.
Indeed, everybody's frustrated because they feel cooped up, they feel a little bit imprisoned. But at the same time, okay, with this situation, what can I do now? What can I do to create my own sunshine in the limited space that I have right now? And your second recommendation would be? Just to give context.
Okay, my second recommendation would be this one.
Make Time.
Make Time.
By Jake Knapp and John Staratsky.
Yeah.
Why do you like this book?
It's in Bahasa Indonesia?
It's in Bahasa Indonesia. The translation is published by Gramedia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cara fokus.
Yes.
See that. All right.
To the camera. So what do you like about this book, Patty?
Okay, so this book is written by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky. Both of them used to work at a big company in the Silicon Valley company at Google.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, you must be wondering how busy they were, right? So, yeah, they created this book by experimenting with themselves and also with other people in their team, in Google team, and also other company, to create a system that make us able to prioritize things that we really care about. So they say that it's not a book about productivity, not about getting things done faster or something, but it's a book about so we can really make time in a day about things that we want to do.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Yeah, focusing
We
what's
need to
important.
learn
As simple
about that
as
every
spending
day.
more time with family, something like that.
Yes, yes.
Very
yes.
nice. And your
This one,
third?
the second one?
This is the second one.
Okay, and
And
the
my third book would be
Psychology of Money.
Psychology of Money
Yeah.
by Morgan Housel.
Why do you like that book?
Because this is not a how-to book as to like how to invest your money
Or the financial.
or the financial thing, how to gain more money, something like that. But instead, it's a book about the writer explained to us that our relation with money is affected by our life experience and our upbringing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he said that no one is crazy. So.
No one is crazy?
No one is crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's some people who like to save their money and not spending on anything.
Yes.
But on the contrary, there are also people who like to spend so much without saving at all.
Yeah.
So, but he said that no, they are not crazy because it depends on their life experience and upbringing.
Wow.
Yeah. So if we are aware of that. At first, we aware of that, and we want to change it. Maybe we can improve our relation with money.
Nice.
I like it. I like it.
Patricia, do you notice when you speaking about books, your eyes is like blinking? You know what? That is. You know what?
That is passion.
Fascinating. Very much because no. Oh my God! I didn't see so much people are being very excited talking about books.
Well, you're excited talking about your current book that you would read again and again until the page drops.
Okay.
What is that? What is that? Show us. Show us the cover. Do you have the cover already ready?
My favorite one is.
This is a recommendation from Shafira.
This one, it's called Conversation on Love.
Okay, can you show it to the camera so
This
people can...
one. I
There
got
you go.
this book recommendation from Shanas actually.
Oh.
So,
And this is by the writer? Who's the author?
Natasha Lun.
What do you like about it, Shafira?
Well, actually, this book. Wait, I'm going to open without any commercial in it. So hard. Okay. This one.
We're gonna shoot. Oh, there.
All right, this one.
That's the cover.
Conversation on Love by
Oh.
Natasha Lun.
Why do you like? Why do you
The
like this book,
author
Shaf?
trying to share a lot of perspective about love. So basically, it's not about love between women and men only,
Yeah.
but what exactly love to ourselves, to our parents, parents to their children, from grandparents to the earth. To everything. So basically, it's a love as a basic thing that we never learn from school. But it's because it's very basic. It's very important. Why we don't learn about it?
Yeah.
But why we never learn about love
At school, right?
Exactly at school.
Yeah.
And in fact, love is taking so much role in our life.
Yeah.
So basically, in her journey to getting married, to define the true what is love, she wrote this book.
That's very interesting.
By having an interview with so many experts. I love this book so much.
See, you have 4 recommendations so far.
Yeah.
And hey, to top it off, I have 1 recommendation.
Yeah, all right.
This is the book that I recently finished. It's by Susan Cain. If you guys are familiar, Susan Cain years ago wrote this book about introversion, or books for introvert people, called Quiet. And this time, very recently, just several months ago, she wrote a book about that is titled Bittersweet: How Sorrow and Longing Make Us Whole. So oftentimes, right? Oftentimes when we feel down or we feel sad or we're grieving, we want to run away from that feeling
Yeah.
as soon as possible, right? We want to be just like, I want to be happy, to the point that you are implementing toxic positivity into your life, which is actually not healthy either. So Susan Cain is basically saying it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to grieve as well. And give your time to actually feel sad and grieve, because with sadness, you will understand what happiness is. It's almost like that movie from Pixar. Do you guys remember?
Inside Out.
Inside Out.
Oh,
Right?
feel the emotions.
Yeah, you remember there's joy and sadness.
Yeah.
So there's an interesting story within that book that you will enjoy as well. So Susan Cain basically told a story about this film Inside Out. In the beginning, the film Inside Out, the main characters, the 2 main characters, was actually joy and fear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not joy and sadness.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, they're from the opposite part.
Yes, so joy and fear. But then the Pixar guy suddenly felt that, oh, you know, fear actually does not contribute anything to joy. So the story sort of was stuck. And then, but sadness actually makes joy understand real joy.
Okay.
So that's why the 2 main characters became joy and sadness.
Oh,
and
that's
this
interesting.
is what
I'm gonna
Bittersweet
find that book.
is about.
Bittersweet love. Oh my God.
I know, right?
Patricia,
Very interesting,
you're
right?
talking about books, never-ending conversation. And what, according to you, what is the most interesting part of book reviews that you've been doing?
The most interesting part, okay.
And you record it to your podcast and
Yeah.
your YouTube channel.
The most interesting part is during writing the script, because you know, it's like you read a book and then you reread it again for writing a script. You can find different perspective.
Yes.
That's one of the most interesting part. But another one is I always try to involve the audience, my fellow readers, to the content. So I sometimes make content that collecting stories from them.
Wow.
Just like maybe I ask them what books they are reading right now and why do you like the books, and then I created content from it because I want them to share what they love about the books as well. So yeah, the whole world will know, something like that. Yeah, but if I have to pick one of the most interesting episode, it must be from the book titled Cerita-Cerita Jakarta.
Tell us about it.
Published by Post Press, an independent publisher based in Jakarta. So Cerita-Cerita Jakarta is a collection of short stories written by 10 writers. There's 10 stories about their point of view of Jakarta.
Oh, nice.
So there's a love story of 2 people who live in Jakarta, and then there's a story of flood in Jakarta, story of there's a story that involves racial theme during 1998 riot.
Yes.
And then-
Interesting, that.
Interesting. And a story about one suburban resident who lives in Depok and he travels to Jakarta the whole day using public transportation.
Oh, it's very relevant to
Yeah.
Jakarta. So basically people can read
Yes.
every time. It's timeless kind of book,
Yeah.
of course. Oh, that's
This
nice.
one, right? Is this the right one?
many-
Cerita-Cerita Jakarta.
Cerita-Cerita Jakarta.
So there you go.
Cute.
This is the book, Le Livre. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about
Cool.
Jakarta, there are plenty of books about Jakarta, and this
Alright.
is one of them that you can definitely
Yeah.
check out.
Yay! All right.
The stories are very compelling, and as someone who grew up, who was born, grew up, and still live in Jakarta, yeah, reading the stories and then created an episode out of it, it makes me like, makes me have complicated feelings.
Yeah.
I love Jakarta, but I also hate it at the
Yeah,
same time.
love and hate relationship with the city.
And still cannot
me
detach
too.
from it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, but that is what life is all about, isn't it? Life is complex, but you know, in the complexities, it lies beauty as well.
All
So
right.
what's your hope for your podcast, the readers of Indonesia?
Yeah.
Okay, for podcasts, I wish for the Indonesian podcast scene to evolve into an industry, so which means there's a significant economic growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then people can proudly call themselves a podcaster
As a profession.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, I wish for more variety of contents. Yeah, because
What do you want to see that we still don't have now?
there's a lot of genres, podcast genres maybe in the United States that still not available in Indonesia, or still not available so many in Indonesia. Maybe like a documentary style podcast.
Yes.
I like history.
Yes.
Yes.
And covering different themes.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, I hope that all creators in Indonesia, not only the podcasters, but also the platform and all the stakeholders to explore more genres.
Yeah.
And also, I also hope our audience just also have the willingness to explore more genres outside their comfort zone.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Patty. Thank you so much for our insightful and wonderful and inspirational discussion here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Fun, amazing, Patricia. Keep on going. What you're doing? Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing. All right, guys, we're up for another short break. In the meantime, don't forget to follow our social media accounts if you haven't already: Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe in your channel as well.
Oh yes, please.
Yes, main mata. Main mata. Wink, 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 wink.
Podcast on YouTube.
And see Today News as well. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.